Welcome back to the Realtor Diaries podcast. I'm Elijah McGowan with the Jacoby team at Century 21. With me as always,
Kim Jacoby with the Jacoby team of Century 21. We are your go-to Northern California realtors.
Now, today's topic is commercial real estate. And Kim has more experience than me in commercial real estate.
Barely.
But we feel like with as much as we have, we'll let our special guest, Austin Barron, talk about it today. And then we'll give you some tips on how to maybe get into commercial real estate if you're interested, and maybe some other facts.
Yeah. Okay. And now I'd like to introduce our special guest for today, Austin Barron. He's with Ethan Conrad Properties.
Yeah, thanks for having me, you guys. I've been listening to a couple episodes of your podcast. Thanks for having me on.
Our biggest fan is here. We got to show up.
I know. That's thrilling to us that you listen to our podcast, so thank you.
Yeah.
And we're very excited that you're here today. I think that's why I have so much energy, because I'm just excited that you're here.
And I did it bad. I started talking to him as soon as he showed up.
I know. I'm like, save it for the podcast.
Save it.
So, Austin is in commercial real estate, and Elijah and I, we focus on residential.
Primarily, yep.
And over the 10 years, 11 years that I've been doing real estate, I have helped somebody buy a building for their little photography studio. I've helped a couple people get a lease for their little whatever art studio.
And for their business.
But that's it. That's been my world of business.
Okay.
Real estate, commercial.
And I think I showed a commercial property one time.
There you go. But as Austin can attest to, it is so much more than that.
Agreed. It's a whole nother world, It's something that I've loved to do since I started in real estate was work with the residential agents who, you sell them a house and they might have they might be a dentist, or they might have a small business, and how you can help them from there, because obviously you want to retain the client, and I can be there to kind of guide you through the leasing process or the buying process. I mean, as we were speaking about earlier, commercial real estate can go from such a small deal to these crazy multi-million-dollar sales. So you got to be prepared to how to deal with a small little client who's leasing just a single office or a small studio, all the way up to the larger building. So
I did have a question, because I don't know, maybe I'm obsessed with math, but how much number crunching is there involved?
Way more than our residential. Right?
Yeah, because I definitely explore the residential income side, because it kind of feels like an in to the commercial space,
for sure.
Especially if you're over 5+ units, that kind of
for
thing.
sure, yeah.
And how much is it making the numbers speak to you?
I think it's really all about the numbers. I think your job as a commercial broker is to go from the concept of, I want to start a restaurant here, and taking it from ground up, whether it be a build to suit, or an existing space that you're putting a bunch of tenant improvements into, or TIs as we call them, and you're trying to calculate how we're going to make money. We're going to spend $2 million building this building. How are we going to make this lease make sense in the long run? And so there is quite a bit of number crunching and finding out these numbers, net effective rent, or on a sales perspective, cap rates. That's the one that the residential agents can grasp onto.
We're in love with.
Cap rates are you use them in multifamily too. So that's a number that makes sense.
Well, and then if the numbers don't make sense for that client, do you tell them that? Is there, I guess my question is more how often do you find yourself working with a potential client who it's, after crunching the numbers and just whatever is going on maybe in our, not industry, but in our
market.
Economy.
Sure.
In our economy, it's now is not a good time to start a restaurant, or now, is that a real thing?
Yeah.
For sure, we definitely run into that where the budget to either do the tenant improvements or the budget for the client just to start their business doesn't make sense with whatever other number we're dealing with, if it's rent or whatever that number may be.
Okay.
And trying to, solve that equation. It costs too much money to get this and this and this goods nowadays. How can we find a rent that makes sense? Can we cure that lower rent from the landlord's perspective with a longer lease term?
Okay.
So over, 5 years instead of 3 years, or 7 years instead of 5 years, can we make that money back that we're kind of giving the tenant a break on in the first couple months or years?
Yeah.
But that's something that's great about commercial is we're so flexible. In residential, it's like you can't turn a 2-bedroom into a 3-bedroom.
Right.
True.
But in
That's
commercial,
true.
you can. It's like, okay, we'll build you one, or
That's cool.
if it's not enough rent for the amount of TIs going into it, we can increase the rent or add longer term, or
So that's where the real estate, everything is negotiable side of commercial real estate.
100%.
It's
Everything's negotiable.
It's like we will make it work if it can work.
Yeah. I mean, one of Ethan Conrad's slogans per se is "We love deals," and we truly mean that. In that, we love finding that solution that not every landlord would agree to, or not every landlord can. I mean, obviously, you have the smaller landlords that have a couple buildings, they got a little bit of money, and more larger corporate landlords that own a big shopping center that can do these types of improvements. So
Right.
That's a lot of what goes into repping a tenant or a buyer or a seller or a landlord.
Yeah.
Another curiosity.
We're good. Can't even hear it.
Okay.
Sweet.
The air conditioning came on.
Yeah.
Elijah and I looked at each other
We're like, that's not awesome.
All right.
You gotta put those on the windows and stuff.
I know.
Block
I know.
out this room.
One small cut. That's easy.
Yeah.
And the AC is silent on the recording. So
Oh, good. Another curiosity that I had was, okay, hold on. I can't remember what it was.
I have a question.
Okay. But I'll just,
You talked
thinking
about making deals happen. That's a slogan of sorts at your brokerage.
Yeah, that's kind of a philosophy as ours. Is we love to solve that equation. No matter how we have to do it. We have the luck of being such a big brokerage that owns a lot of buildings, has a lot of funding and backing to be creative.
Okay.
But we also know that we deal with smaller tenants who maybe can't match a higher rent, and we definitely want to try to solve that equation however we can. Maybe find them a smaller location if the rent is too high, or maybe we give them a break for the first couple of years, and the annual increases might be a little higher. But we can solve that equation.
Absolutely.
That's a big part of commercial is being able to take any one of these metrics that might be needing to change and raising or lowering another metric to counteract that. So.
And any deals you've made happen in the recent past, I suppose?
Recent past,
recent future.
I'm working on a couple here in Chico. I can't get names out.
Of course.
But I'm working on a couple fast food restaurants, fast casual restaurants. One in a shopping center north of town, and one in our Chico marketplace. But that are these great tenants that Chico has never had.
Okay.
And that's something that's great about being a tertiary market. Not a capital market like Sacramento or San Francisco. And sometimes we can get these tenants that maybe the landlord has a property down in one of those capital markets and can bring it here because they bought something here.
Oh, okay.
So that's something else that these landlords are able to do is once we can find a conforming lease for these businesses, no matter what kind of business it is, we can say to them, hey, we have something else here, we can find you something else there, and it's definitely a good benefit. It works for the tenant. We can find them more business somewhere else, help them make more money, and we can have these great businesses in a smaller town like Chico.
Yeah. And you might not have a story for it, but is there anything maybe that you brought to Chico that you thought wouldn't work at first?
There's quite a few. Chico's an interesting market. We have we're not Sacramento. We don't have 500,000 people.
Yeah.
But we do have about 105, 110,000, depending on what you look at.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a college.
Mhm.
So a
Yeah,
lot of
true.
these trendy businesses, no matter what it is, they work here in Chico because of that college. Where maybe in towns like Redding or like Woodland or Orland,
Yeah.
Oroville, they wouldn't work because they don't have that younger, hip, trendy demographic.
Yeah, the workforce or the consumer.
Right, in
Yeah.
the workforce and the consumer. And that's something that Chico, even though we don't necessarily match the population, we do have. And that's why we're able to pull in a business like Chick-fil-A, which was a recent news article here in Chico.
Yes.
Which is
Chick-fil-A,
awesome.
like
I'm excited about
they
that.
pop up in like Reno and
Yeah.
Sacramento
Absolutely.
and San Francisco, major markets, but we're able to pull them here because we have that college that's
Yeah.
going to supply them so many customers.
So is that part of your job to kind of convince the Chick-fil-A people that Chico's a great place to have their business?
For sure, that is 100% part of it. We go from different metrics, looking at what we call a void analysis, which is, we take a market like Chico and find what is not here that's in similar sized markets or similar demographic markets.
Okay, so like where's the opportunity?
Can
Yeah,
I make
where's
some
the
suggestions?
opportunity?
We need a Macy's and we need a second In-N-Out Burger
We do.
in North Chico.
We can handle it.
We
can
need,
handle
we
it.
need a second In-N-Out burger. We need an El Pollo Loco. I've heard everybody wants an El Pollo Loco.
Come on, give me a Macy's.
We need a Sonic.
We need a
Macy's,
fourth Chipotle.
Macy's.
We
We
need
need
a
a
fourth
fourth Chipotle.
There
Yes.
we go.
They've been expanding. Chipotle is one of those. They've been doing only drive-throughs now. They're just like the
Really?
Chipotlane, like the one
'Cause I
on
know there's
East
the
Avenue.
there's the one.
Interesting.
Yeah. They've been only doing the drive-throughs now. It's
Only?
interesting. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, and
It
I've
is
very much enjoyed Raising Cane's.
Yeah. That's a
Thank you for bringing that.
that's a great one as well. You know?
Very good chicken.
I was at
Yeah, very
their,
good chicken.
I think their grand opening.
Yeah. Oh, that was crazy.
Like in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
It's like 150 people in
Oh
line.
my gosh. Right. I waited in line.
There's a
I think, for like an hour.
PJ. Yep.
And I thought about it because they are one of our tenants. Like, I
Yeah.
was like, can I get in quicker?
Right.
And
I know,
I'm
right?
like, no, I don't want to be that guy.
And then I think the college
Make
brought
way, realtor coming through.
brought in people, and I had a friend like get one of like the one Cane's meal a month thing.
Oh, yeah,
And they're like
yeah.
running through a tunnel of cheerleaders. I'm like, what is
Oh,
happening?
my God. Yeah, they love it. They do so much.
It was
good
great.
business. It's a really good model.
That's cool. I didn't know they had a club.
I mean,
I guess if they're there on opening day, then
you get a little something.
So to get back to some, content here, if I'm a realtor and I want to get into commercial real estate,
Mhm.
let's say I get all the training, right, and do the classes. Our brokerage, Century 21, has commercial training.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, how do you find clients and how do you start making money?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the quickest way to find clients is to talk to all the local businesses
Okay.
and start from the tenant side of things. It's a little bit harder to walk to a landlord and see they've used the same agent for forever
Right.
and
Yeah.
say, hey, you should use me, even though I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But from the tenant side, and go to these core locations like in Chico we have Miriam Park, which is a big commercial location. We have downtown, we got a couple shopping centers and malls, and talk to these tenants and ask them, how long is their lease term? Do they have a couple of years left? How's business going? Do you need an additional location? Do you need to relocate? And truly just try to add value to their lives.
Yeah.
They love to see that somebody is out advocating for them and fighting for them to do better. So I think that's a big start is you got to learn how to write an LOI, which
Letter of intent.
yes, a letter of intent to lease, and what terms these tenants might be looking for, what is important to them, because it's not always rent. Sometimes it's a signage opportunity that they didn't have,
Location,
or
yeah.
frontage. That's another big metric.
Yeah.
Some of these tenants that are in what we call like elbow locations, they're in the corner of a V. They might be doing good, but they could do better if they had more frontage, more visibility.
Okay.
And those are things that you can just bring up to these tenants, and they might choose to add on an additional location or relocate if they need to, and that's kind of a good icebreaker, because then you start to you lease a couple spaces for a landlord, and they start remembering your name.
Yeah.
And, maybe their
That's
agent
true.
retires, or they got tired of them for whatever reason. They're going to call the person that actually brought in the deals.
Yeah, and even like you are writing these leases for their tenants,
right?
And
right.
the agents who's on the other side is like, dang, well, I'm looking to retire.
This
guy's been writing good
That's
leases.
true.
Maybe.
Yeah,
It's just a way to break in.
They'll call you when they have new spaces available and
Yeah.
ask if you have anybody for them. I mean, once you break into that network, I mean, to give you an idea, I think there's only about probably 5%, maybe even less than that, of agents of realtors that do commercial.
Yeah.
So it's a small market.
Like in any amount. Like
I would say probably probably
okay.
any amount. There's
So it's a really small, tight knit community, is what you're saying.
It's very small and tight knit, but also if you do good work, I think
Yes.
everybody is happy to share. There's
Yes.
plenty to go around. If not too much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of commercial brokers I've met that they have 2 or 3 assistants, and it's like I don't know, I can't do all these deals at one time.
Really?
Big struggle there. And I think one of the reasons why residential realtors might dip their toe in and then dip it back out is because to get started, you said it's usually leases, and those paychecks can be very small.
Yeah.
But just like pretty much any real estate career, it's the long game.
Absolutely.
So it's like one of the longest commercial deals, longest escrow or longest till you got paid.
Oof, the longest I probably ever had was honestly on land.
Okay.
And that might be a little different necessarily from commercial, but it does tie in, and that the big delay there is getting permits.
Yeah.
You build a new building, or you build a subdivision, which this happened to be that what I'm referencing. It takes a long time, often years.
Wow.
You've spoken a lot about like subdivisions, and you have a lot of tools that you've shared with that.
Yeah, I do. It's another one of those problems you got to solve. You just take this piece of land and the price, and you're trying to figure out, how can I build housing here that matches the community and makes financial sense? You don't want to build a subdivision in the middle of a community of $400,000 houses, and they cost $650.
Exactly.
Nobody's going to buy those $650 homes, or the other way around. Everybody's going to be mad at you, the developer, the big bad developer.
They'll feel like you've brought down.
If you build the cheaper home. So it's finding that balance and doing right by the community.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something to look at.
Wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've learned a lot today. I mean, I have at least.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think we'll go on to talk about some stats and news about it, but thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you so
Austin.
much for having me on.
Heck yeah, and we'll see you at the news. And now it's time for the news. Today's topic is, of course, commercial real estate. We've heard a lot from Austin. I mean, great conversation, honestly, and
Yes.
I definitely learned a lot, like I said. But I think we have some stats, I think we're going to talk about the designation for the NAR one as well, the CCIM.
Yes.
And I mean, you are going to teach us a little bit about the types of commercial real estate.
I was kind of blown away. I just Googled types of commercial real estate to see how many, and there's literally probably 30.
Oh my gosh.
And when you start reading through these results, you're like, oh that one too.
Yes.
So think about just like with residential, are you going to be like an expert in first-time home buyers, in condos, in ranch homes, in horse property? There's so many different categories. Well, in commercial real estate, I'm not going to hit through all 30, but so you've got like multifamily, think apartments.
And more than, technically it's 5 or more units, right? Yeah.
5 or more is considered commercial real estate, not residential.
Yes.
Industrial.
Factories.
Yes. Then we've got like hospitality. Airbnb would be one of those.
We talked a little bit about how even though like you have a house you're renting out for Airbnb, since it's a business running out of there, it's an odd mix of commercial and residential.
Yeah,
real
so like
estate.
if somebody wanted to sell their Airbnb and sell it as an Airbnb,
Mhm.
then technically that's a commercial deal.
Yeah, you're selling a business.
Yeah. And of course, there's the storage business. When a business wants to sell the actual business, you know, you could take that business and put it in any building you want.
Yeah.
There's like shopping malls, they call the really big ones power centers.
Okay. Offices too. Yeah, that's a very specific part of the market. Huh?
Yep. And then one more type I'll give you, hotels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much to commercial real estate.
Right.
And I have some like stats related to it, which I thought was really interesting. Specifically, a little comparison to residential.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, 2022 and 2023 statistics, because those are the ones we have the most of.
Yeah.
So there was, in transactions, and I believe this is a United States stat, $1.14 trillion in transactions in 2022 compared to
Total
1.63.
volume.
Yeah, like total amount like sold/bought.
Yeah.
That's how many deals went through.
And I cut you off on that. You said compared to
residential, which did 1.63 trillion in 2022.
so 1.14 trillion
Mm-hmm.
in 22 for commercial, 1.63
Yes.
for residential. Interesting.
And then they totally diverged. In 2023, the amount of transactions that happened, in dollar amounts at least, almost halved to 647 billion.
Oh wow.
So they nearly halved the amount of business they did, while residential real estate grew in transaction dollar amount to $2.1 trillion.
Yeah,
So they like totally diverged, which was crazy in my mind.
that's crazy. So 2023 commercial real estate took a dive,
Yeah.
but residential was bumping.
He kept moving.
Yeah.
And just a couple extra stats. This is from Simply online. Industrial, so like ground broken on new factories
Mhm.
and various industrial projects. 236 million square feet worth of million
Wow.
with an M
In what year?
in 2024.
Wow.
So that's like factories, chemical plants, like all kinds of different stuff
Yeah.
where they produce goods.
That's cool. I mean, you know, made in the USA, right?
I guess so, yeah. It's really awesome. And the last one, which I thought was really interesting, was about every year, $600 billion in commercial loans mature.
Oh wow.
So like $600 billion worth of loans people finish paying off about every year, and it
That's
says
a lot of money.
that stat will hold until like 2028, like
Interesting.
2029.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that they have these statistics, and I mean, I'm still very new to this to this career, but I think it's awesome just to be able to take these values and like turn them into something valuable.
Yeah. Well, let's say, you know, you want to become more focused on commercial real estate. One of the ways to do that is to earn your CCIM designation.
Yes.
And that stands for the Certified Commercial Investment Member.
Yeah, and that takes a mix of education and becoming a member of, I think, the CCIM Institute.
Yeah.
They have like their own thing going on, and experience that you would already have to have in the commercial real estate field.
Right. Yeah, so like if you got your CCIM, it'd be like you could put on your business card Elijah McGowan, CCIM.
Yeah.
And then that designation is taken very seriously in the commercial real estate industry.
Oh, okay.
It's like, oh, she's a CCIM or he has a CCIM.
Like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. So, what does it take to get it? Well, you've got to take 6 core classes
Mm-hmm.
and plus 2 units of elective classes.
Yeah.
And earlier we were looking at the list. It's like 100 different elective classes you can choose
And
from.
most of them are only worth a quarter of a unit.
Yeah, so we're looking at like anywhere from 6 to 8 electives that you have to take on top of that.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, then you build this portfolio, work experience
Portfolio of qualifying experience, I think it is.
Yeah, they want you to have at least 2 years of commercial real estate experience, and then you have to submit this portfolio qualifying experience to demonstrate that you have commercial real estate experience and that you fulfilled the volume requirements
Yes.
for the designation, which I don't know what those are, but
But it
I'd be
sounds like
curious.
you've had to do business.
yeah, you got to have some closed deals.
Yeah.
Then the cost for the whole thing, it's like around between $8,200 and $10,000.
Yeah.
That's the courses and the fee for your portfolio and then the test. So
The test itself is like $1,200.
Yeah, it is quite a bit more expensive than getting the real estate license.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it depends on the school you went to.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all that stuff is to say that commercial real estate is a really good option. I mean, and it seems like something I might enjoy. Like maybe
Yeah.
I'll explore. Maybe in 3 years I'll have the experience needed
Right? I know.
to grab a CCIM designation.
Yeah,
But
we need to find out what that volume requirement is
oh yeah, absolutely.
and start chipping away at that.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll catch you next time.
All right.